Welcome to Awesome Wildlife Effort. Our show is to show how important it is right now to deal with wildlife conservation. Species conservation is a topic that's going on in the U.S. Congress. It's a topic that artists deal with. It's a topic that sanctuaries are being developed because we are looking at the 6th mass extinction in the history of the world. People are addressing it from many different ways. So our guest today is Kenner Mayor Mike Yenni. And Mike has an interesting thing because Kenner is on the Mississippi River on one end. It is on Lake Pontchartrain on another. It has some swamps, I believe, to one side, and a lot of wildlife. So although you're not dealing with elephants and rhinos, you have your own wildlife to deal with, and quite a lot of it.
We do. You know, Kenner is a great community, surrounded, as you said, on 3 sides by water, and with especially the marshlands, swamp area that we're surrounded to immediately by the west, that can bring a multitude of species throughout the city of Kenner. And when the bachelor land outside the river fills up, certainly attracts anything over that levee into the city of Kenner because that water takes away those animals' dwellings.
And Mike, what most people don't know is Kenner is the 5th largest city in Louisiana.
6th, actually.
6th, excuse me. So the 6th, and you have a lot of development going on. The airport, New Orleans Airport's in Kenner. There's a lot of issues. So we have population growth happening, and you've got business development because of the airport, and you've got a very aggressive plan, the Kenner Vision 2030 that you're working on.
We do, and the way that started was when we slipped it some time ago from 5th to 6th, we lost a little population after Hurricane Katrina. Now, I don't believe everybody quite took the U.S. Census that they should have because the traffic in Kenner is as bad as it's ever been. And I do believe we have a lot of migrant workers still living in Kenner that may not have participated in it. So I think our population is very close to 70,000 where we once were, and definitely in the high 60s. And it's a great community. It's very diverse. We have a large population of Hispanics throughout the city of Kenner. In fact, the largest population of Hondurans outside of Honduras. So that tells you something right there. But you talked about the airport. Well, that North Terminal redevelopment is going to certainly change the whole landscape of Kenner and attract more businesses, more hotels. We've already got 3 hotels wanting to go where one big hotel was that just got demolished. Where a lot of we have tons of rental car dealerships, as you can imagine, around an airport. And again, we welcome this development. We welcome this change. I know a lot of people were scared at first, but once we talked to them and said this is very important for the community, it's very important for the region. This will not only help Kenner, this will be an explosion for the entire region.
Oh, it's big in digital media with the tax credits going on. There's a lot of growth going on. But do you find that you also have to figure out how you're going to deal with the wildlife?
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of areas of Kenner that have been designated bird sanctuaries, especially around Chateau Estates. The beauty of when Chateau was developed back in the 70s, Chateau was all swamp and marshland. It was the mud is geographically called Kenner muck. And it was like coffee grinds. If you looked at it, dark black and kind of thick, and you stepped into it and you'd sink. Well, of course, when the developers came through, they had to fill in, but a lot of the trees were lost through the process because they had to build up, over the roots of the trees. But we've been very proactive in planting trees, which are bird sanctuaries, and a lot of animals take refuge in trees, especially during floods and rain events and storms. So we have tons of trees throughout the city of Kenner.
Waterfowl, like ducks. I mean, there's just a lot of activity. You drive down the street.
Believe me, we get requests for duck crossing signs all the time. And what's funny about driving through Chateau and around Kenner City Park, where we have a ton of wildlife in Kenner City Park also, and the little water features they have there, people ask us, can we have duck crossing signs? And people know to stop and let the ducks cross. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to say some unfortunately may not get hit, but we have a great humane department who is in times taken wounded ducks or wounded animals to local vets, and the local vets were really good and step up and do everything they can to treat them, especially birds when birds get hit or something happens to a bird. But we have a lot of actually hunters that are conservationists also that want to save certain species of ducks and have brought certain species of ducks to Kenner City Park and house them there, which is great. And they watch out for them. I mean, I'll get calls from these guys and say, man, look, I know I put some mallards over there. I know, and I want to make sure they're treated right. We had some Eagle Scouts build an actual little duck refuge for the ducks to be put in Kenner City Park. And also, they're very active in doing these bird-type feeders where the birds can have refuge way up in the trees at Kenner City Park to keep them away from the wildlife that may be after them.
So there's a lot to be said as far as how humans need to adapt to having animals in their backyard.
Right.
Whether it be wildlife or overseas it might be elephants. Or,
Well,
you know.
the scary thing for Kenner residents is the coyotes, because when, like I said, when the Batcher land fills, we do get coyotes that will cross over, but the residents are on the lookout for them. Our humane calls some certain trappers, and we're able to humanely trap them and release them back into the area.
So I see you use a lot of art in Kenner.
We do.
And does the art have a educational purpose? Is it?
Some of it's educational, some of it's fun, some of it people don't understand, some of it people love, some of it people hate. But we have had some great artists. You know, James Michelopoulos, who paints the crooked houses, he did a great sculpture for us at Chateau and Vintage. We have a great Ledbetter piece that's out at, it's a wetlands piece with some egrets on it out at our Lake Town entrance. So, you know, Henry Shane, who's one of our local philanthropists, has donated a lot of artwork down the Loyola corridor with these beautiful butterflies that were done on our Power Boulevard area, and the entire Power Boulevard stretch will all be a sculpture garden at some point soon. And it's brought culture to the community. It's got people talking. You know, if you love it.
Has this been a long-time vision to Kenner? Because
Well,
it's,
you know,
it's beautiful to see. You don't see many cities doing that.
We watched some of it happen in Jefferson Parish, but I'd like to say we took it to a new level based on the 2030 plan we're about to do. City of New Orleans followed Jefferson Parish with it, with some of theirs that they've done down Poitras and throughout the area. Unless you are fortunate enough to go to the sculpture garden behind the New Orleans Museum of Art, you don't get to see this. There are a lot of people that don't make it there. So we want to be able to allow them to see it throughout the city of Kenner's landscapes. We just had a great piece that was around for the World's Fair that was restored, and we have actually on loan to the city of New Orleans.
When you're looking for your artists, and you've got benefactors who are doing this, because I notice you run a very tight budget.
We do not pay for artwork. I'd love to, but I got to pave streets and fix.
So you've been able to arrange for donors to help this.
Yes.
Do you have like with the wildlife you're talking about, or do you have certain concepts?
Well, let me tell you what happens, and the Kenner Police would kind of find this story funny. The artists will go and sit in certain areas of the city where they'd like to put their artwork. We actually had a Kenner policeman approach one of them who was sitting there, because we don't allow people to lay out on our neutral grounds or anything like that. So thought this guy might be homeless, but it was actually an artist who was looking for a place to put his artwork and found a home for a piece of his artwork, which is great. So we welcome that throughout the city of Kenner.
Does the Parks and Recs, are they people who work with the people, or how does it?
It's all done through our Public Works Department.
Public Works.
And you know, our landscape architect, Linfield Hunter and Junius, does a lot of our landscape architect. Greg Cantrell, who was very instrumental in the developments down Veterans in Jefferson Parish, is doing our work in the city of Kenner, and he understands where and how this artwork needs to be placed. But we try to leave it up to the artist, because I mean, obviously they're taking their time to go sculpt these wonderful pieces of art. You know, where do they see that it fits best? Now we have to look at it for traffic. You know, whether it's going to impede traffic or, you know, block a view from somebody making a turn, and we have to look at other things like power lines and underground wiring and different things like that, because you got to put slabs or bases for this artwork. But if they want it in a certain vicinity, we try to accommodate that. Okay,
and then I know that the crew of Awe as such, they're looking to, when they heard about what you did, and they have artists coming to them for wildlife art and such. So do you see this is an opportunity for cities to have something, so when someone's driving down the street, or there's this ability to interact and start to realize what's going on with species conservation.
Our Kenner City Park, Henry Shane donated, basically, it was just a sculpture of a giraffe. Beautiful giraffe.
I've seen that. It's beautiful.
You've seen it. And we placed it out there. Well, you know how many kids now refer to Kenner City Park as the Giraffe Park? And we at first we thought about maybe putting it in some trees where you'd kind of see the giraffe's head pop out the trees. But I think the fact that it's by the play equipment in Kenner City Park, kids go take pictures with it. They want to do little birthdays around it. They want to be part of the artwork.
So, and then Mike, as far as mayors becoming more involved with this, we've seen the mayors going to the Vatican for climate change and other issues. Do you sense that there is going to be a movement through the Sierra Club or somebody, as endangered species become more prevalent, for mayors to have that on their radar?
You know, I think it's very important that we get proactive in that. It's very upsetting when I see these commercials where they talk about in 10 years certain animals that are all throughout Africa will no longer be here because of the way they're being hunted, or just, you know, their species is just getting into that ending point. And I think it's very important that we're cognizant of that we make sure we do everything we can to protect the wildlife within our communities.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Subscribe to Awe News. We've interviewed numerous people, artists, legislators, people operating sanctuaries, activists who are working hard to save vanishing species. Get involved.